What's up, dudes? Eli here, back for a growers video. I can't remember if I've done one or two of these in the past, but it's something I do like doing, and I've been meaning to do another one for a long time. It's when I choose, I don't know what the fuck my deal is with the number 3, doing things in threes, but apparently I'm choosing 3 albums at a time that I'm a big fan of now, but when they came out, or should I say when I first heard them, I wasn't into either at all or just not very much. Basically, my feelings, changed drastically about the albums in question. So, yeah, with me that happens a lot. And a lot of the time, albums like that go on to be some of my favorites. I just don't get them at first, and then, especially if I buy an album, I'm always going to come back to it. And I really like revisiting albums that I kind of feel indifferent about. It's this weird obsession that I have. There'll be albums in my collection that I barely like at all, and every year or two I always will come back to them just to see. It's almost like an experiment, just to see if my feelings have changed at all. And then pretty often they do. Some albums don't grow on me, but a lot of the time I like them a little bit more and more, and I don't know, it's just kind of a fun thing. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna talk about 3 albums that I'm a big fan of, yet when I first heard them I wasn't super into. I think I already described that. I don't know why I'm reiterating. Another thing I'm gonna start doing, at least for now, we'll see if I continue it, but I think some of you guys know I've always been big into comic books. I have a pretty fucking big collection too. It's not something I go into in a lot of depth on this channel, but I try to kind of go into it a little bit. But I've been wanting to get back into reading comics, just like with movies and music. My comic collection, I have a bunch of shit I bought over the last however many years that I haven't read yet. So I'm gonna pick one comic before every video, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm just going to briefly show it, and talk maybe for a minute or two about it. And honestly, I'm going to do it last. I'm going to do it at the very end of the video. That way, because I'm sure 90% of you guys don't give a fuck about comics, so, that way you don't have to suffer through it if it's not something you're into. I'll save it for last. Save the worst for last, or whatever you want to. But anyways, so yeah, we'll do that. I think it'll be kind of fun. A couple of you guys are into comics, but anyways, 3 albums I got here. Spoiler alert, I'm just gonna start with this one first because I'm playing it in the background. It is the 2019 self-titled album from St. Vitus. Now we're gonna start off to kind of a weird this is gonna be kind of a weird way to start because I'm kind of breaking the rules with this album. I did like this album from the start. It didn't really have to grow on me. The only reason I'm including it is because, first of all, I like St. Vitus. I'm not a massive fan. I'm not a longtime fan or anything like that. I don't listen to them a lot. But the story with this album is that I was not planning on buying it. And it's kind of I'm just gonna be honest. It's kind of embarrassing, the reason for that, but I'm nothing if not an honest motherfucker. I'll tell you the story. So I used to follow Decibel magazine. I read it. Honestly, I read it since the first issue. So I read it for a long time, 15 plus years, I think. Can't believe it's been that long. I only really stopped reading it within the last year. I think less than a year. I just couldn't take it anymore. I liked it for the reviews, but the reviews were shit. It was a good way for me to find new albums. I like physical printed stuff. I think that's obvious. I like reading physical reviews in magazines way more than reading it on a computer screen. But that said, I could not take a single bit more of their fucking snarky trying to be funny and edgy horseshit anymore. Like, I want to read a review of a metal album, I want to know about the album. I don't care how fucking edgy or funny you are. I don't give a fuck about that. So I just, no more. I can't read that magazine anymore. I'm done. But anyways, they gave this album a really, really bad review. So they use the 1 through 10 number system for rating their albums, and I want to say they gave this like I think a 3 or less. It might have been a 3 or even a 2 or a 1. A lower score than they give almost anything. We're talking like Machine Head low, which I guess I kind of bought into at the time. I was like, wow, that's a really bad review. It was almost entirely negative. I don't know, honestly, I don't think there was one positive thing in that review, which is bullshit. I think most albums, especially of a reputable band, usually there's at least one redeeming factor in there. I mean, come on. Most albums aren't just 100% shit. A band like St. Vitus, even at their worst, come on, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 songs on there that are decent. But this review just fucking tore it apart. I was, like I said, I was already not like a long-time St. Vitus fan or anything like that. So I was like, okay, not really interested in hearing that. And my history with the band, I own one of their albums. It's one from the early 90s with Wino on vocals. I do like it. And that album was a grower on me as well. When I first got it, I was like, all right, this is really boring. I quite like it now. And I'm probably, at this point, I'm probably going to pick up more stuff from the band. But, on top of that, I've heard some of their other albums, online. I've heard some of their earlier stuff. I can't even remember what they were. All Wino fronted albums, though. I had never heard any of the Scott Rieger fronted stuff, at least not that I can remember. So in my mind, Wino was the guy. Wino was the singer that I wanted to hear. Because even before hearing St. Vitus, I was a fan of The Obsessed. So I just had this in my head. I'm like, all right, Wino's the guy, But anyways, so I wasn't planning on picking this up until I saw this promo copy at my local record store for like $5 or $6. I was like, $5-6, I'll risk it. So I snagged it, and this album is really good. Like I said, I can't compare it to their entire discography, but I can say that it's a really good album. It's a good doom album. Like I said, I wasn't very familiar with Scott Rieger and his vocals, but I think he sounds phenomenal here. As you can tell, I think he sounds great. He's an aged singer. And one of the criticisms that Decibel gave this was Scott's vocals. They massive overuse of vibrato. I couldn't disagree more. He's actually one of my favorite parts about this album. I think his voice sounds phenomenal. He sounds like a combination of like Ian Astbury from The Cult and Billy Idol, which I'm not necessarily a Billy Idol fan. I do like The Cult though. But yeah, I think he's just oozing with charisma and character. I absolutely love his voice here, and I'm actually, I don't know what else he's done outside of St. Vitus. If any of you guys, if he's done other stuff, feel free to let me know and I'll check it out. But I absolutely, I don't know if I'd say I love this album, but I really like it. I've been listening to it lately. I think it's phenomenal. It's just everything you want from a doom album. It's the lyrics are totally bleak and apocalyptic and just end of life, end of times. It's great. Great doom. Fuzzy guitars. Lots of punky. Short. Feedback-laden guitar solos, and it's just awesome. Definitely, if you're like me, maybe and you read that stupid fucking Decibel review, it's been 2 years now. Fuck that magazine. Definitely go check this out. We're almost 10 minutes now, and I've just been rambling on mostly about this album, but I just thought I would kind of give an explanation onto why I chose the album and blah blah blah. So we're gonna move on to to the other two albums that fit this category a little more, and I think we're gonna start off with this came out I believe in 2006. Dim Mak, Knives of Ice, came out on Willowtip Records. I've shown this on this channel before. I've shown it in my CD collection, alphabetical videos. So this, yeah, I've shown this, but I haven't talked about it much, I don't think. So Dim Mak are a death metal band out of New Jersey, mostly notable for being kind of the brainchild of Sean Kelly, who's a phenomenal guitarist, one of the best, really. You know, he was in Ripping Corpse, so I mean, legendary status right there. Oh, and well, of course, Scott Ruth. Scott Ruth on vocals was also in Ripping Corpse. I mean, Ripping Corpse are a band that need no introduction. I'll just leave it at that. I'm a big fan. Dim Mak are quite a different entity. They don't sound a lot like Ripping Corpse, which is fine. You know, so this was in no way to be considered a continuation of Ripping Corpse. So I was not familiar with this band when I bought this at all. I bought this basically. I read a review, the album wasn't out yet, but I read a review in a magazine. I can't remember which one. Might have been Decibel. I don't know. Just, you know, said some interesting things. I don't really remember the review that well, but it was very positive and it had me interested, and I wanted to hear this. I kind of checked out I think this is their third album. I think there were two albums before this. I didn't really like them. So this showed up in the mail. Right off the bat, the vocals turned me off. Scott Ruth definitely goes for more of a hardcore approach here. It's you know, I like it now, but you know, it's kind of like a hardcore meets death metal kind of mixed, and it just really turned me off. I also kind of wasn't really into the technical, you know, death metal thing, which was kind of big at this time. And Willowtip, I mean, come on, Willowtip. I think this is the first album I ever ordered from the label, but Willowtip are known for, I mean, that's basically what they do, straight up tech death. I actually later on would go through a tech death phase where I would, for a couple of years, I would get really into it. But when this came out, you know, when I got this in 2006, it was just kind of way over my head, wasted on me, basically. So I don't know if it was just the vocals, but like I said, the tech death part I think didn't really help. I think a lot of the musicianship just went way over my head. That and this band, I mean, they really kind of have their own sound, so it was very alien sounding to me, and I just didn't dig it. But now, and I don't remember exactly when or how long it took, but honestly, this is one of my favorite death metal albums of all time. I don't know if it'd be a top 5 or a top 10 or even 20, but it's in there. It's an album. It's a death metal album that I just love. I go back to it all the time, and you know, maybe a year or two will pass every now and then, and I'll kind of forget about it, but I'll always come back to it. You also have John Longstreth on drums on this album. I don't know if he was in the band previously. I don't think he was, but I could be wrong. But he turns in a monster performance here. I mean, this might be some of his fastest playing, some of his most technical and precise. He's just, I mean, yeah. You know, if you like technical drumming, which I'll admit, if this album were to come out this year, I probably wouldn't be as into it, because now I've kind of dialed back a little bit, and I kind of got that tech death phase out of the way, and I'm not really into it anymore. But this album, it just does it for me. You know, and Sean Kelly's playing, he's just got such a great guitar playing style, very reminiscent of Chuck Schuldiner from Death. He has a similar guitar tone, and I don't know if he was inspired by Chuck or not, or I don't know. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but yeah, if you like, you know, the tech death era of Death, if you like anything from like Human and on, and you don't mind a little bit of hardcore vocals, definitely give this a shot. Lots of Sean, like I said, Sean Kelly is a very inventive guitar player, so there's lots of shredding, lots of cool riffs. If you're going to check out one song from this album, definitely check out the final track, Monolith. It's awesome. It's so fucking brutal and heavy. The riffs are just monolithic. So, yeah, definitely check out Dim Mak, Knives of Ice. If you like it, feel free to check out their other stuff. If you want something more in this vein, the album that they did after this is more along, the lines of this. Their first two albums, I think, are just weird. I can't really get into them. But maybe, who knows? I don't own them, so maybe if I get them someday, they'll grow on me just like this one did. Yeah, just a band that you don't hear about a lot, so I like to talk about them when I can. And last, but certainly not least, and probably my favorite album of the three, that we're talking about tonight, is, I think this came out also in 2006. No, 2004, so a little bit before that. And I bought this around that time, probably a couple years later when I got this, but this is their third or fourth album. I think it's their fourth album, Evergrey, The Inner Circle. So Evergrey, they are kind of like a progressive power metal band out of Sweden. I'm going to show the back. I think I've also shown this in my CD collection videos. So this was the first Evergrey album I'd ever heard, and so I didn't know what to expect at all. This is a blind buy. Just picked it up on the spot, going off the cover. It looked, like something interesting. Came out on Inside Out, which is a label that I'd been, familiar with. Inside Out pretty much just puts out progressive power type stuff, so, win-win, I thought. So first thing that hits me when I get home and I put this in the CD player, I'm pretty sure it was the riffs from the opening song, and these types of riffs are scattered throughout the album. They're like very simple, chuggy riffs, almost like chuggy in that way that, like, those weird chuggy Meshuggah riffs. They kind of remind me of that, but I was expecting just pure power metal, so that kind of riffing, I instantly hated it. Left a bad taste in my mouth for a while, and then the vocals came on, and Tom England, the singer of this band, singer and lead guitarist, to be clear, he's got a fucking great voice. I love him now, but at the time, I mean, there are no bands of this style that have a singer like this. His voice in this genre, completely unique. He sounds like nobody sounds like him. If I would compare him to anyone, he sounds more like an old blues singer. And I'm not a fan of the dude, but he kind of sounds like Joe Cocker, that singer from the 70s. He's got like that smoky, raspy delivery. He's way better than Joe, by the way. The Joe, I don't know. I'm not into that shit, but at the time, yeah, all this stuff, those weird riffs and the vocals, they just ruined the listening experience for me. I couldn't get on with the album. I don't even know if I listened to the whole thing, the first few months that I own this. But, like I said at the beginning of this video, I always give things a second chance. Not only a second chance, especially if I own it, I'll give it a third, I'll give it a fourth. I'll keep going back to it until I either start to like it or I just fucking absolutely hate it. And I love this album. It's been a long time, so I don't remember how many listens it took for it to grow on me. I'm very, very vague on that. All I know is now, and at least for the last 10 years, I absolutely love this album. Like I said, at their core, they are a progressive power metal band. There's a lot of symphonic stuff going on, very cool symphonic keyboard touches, which really brings to mind for me Camelot, especially around this time, and even later era Sabotage. And this album is atmospheric as fuck. There is an atmosphere that dominates the entire album, which which kind of give it a cohesive feeling. But this album is anything but basic and simple, and it's a concept album, which up to this point they had done concept albums, and I want to say they might have all been concept albums. I could be wrong on that, but they definitely had done concept albums before this. However, they did an album before this that was a concept album. It was about alien abduction, and that was really fucking cool. But this one hits home a little bit more for me. Yeah, you know, I was raised, I don't want to say I was raised strictly religious, but I was raised sort of religious. I got out of it at an early age, but so I can't say that I can relate. Maybe a little bit, but anyways, it's a concept album about a dude who is in a religious cult. I was never in a cult or anything, although most religions are, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. So the dude's in a religious cult, and he starts to question it, and eventually, tries to leave the cult. And this is, it's emotionally very heavy. This album is emotionally draining. It's somber all the way through. It's sad. It's introspective. But I do like how when you listen to this album, and if you pay attention, it's like watching a movie. There's a climax at the very end that is just, again, emotionally draining, but you do feel a little bit of a release. Cathartic as all fuck. But the songwriting here is just second to none. The musicianship is second to none. There are two lead guitarists in this band, so there's all kinds of progressive shredding solos, very tasty. The leads and some of the melodic riffing. There is that that chuggy simple riffing that I was talking about. That is also kind of counterbalanced with like really cool melodic, tasty riffs that that only the Swedish tend to do, especially around this time period. Some of these riffs you could almost hear on like a Swedish melodic death metal album. However, there's no death metal here, but those riffs would fit on some of those albums. There's even some cool doom vibes every now and then that they reappear, with kind of like a crushing, melancholic doom. I don't know if that's intentional at all, but for me, it's there, and it's awesome. It works, but I wouldn't call this a doom album by any means. And another thing is this album is catchy. It's catchy. The choruses are top notch. They're catchy, as good as anything Camelot have done. I was just listening to this earlier when I was out on a walk with Louie, and I was like, why aren't these guys stars? Why aren't they super famous? Why aren't some of these songs getting played on some sort of radio? I don't know, probably because it would go over most people's heads, but I mean, this album is just the perfect combination of complexity and catchiness. The choruses, they absolutely stay with you. The storyline, if you can pay attention enough, you will get completely sucked into it. You'll just get lost in the storyline. It's like I said, it's very emotionally taxing, but in a good way. It's worth the listen, and it's worth giving numerous listens. This is a complex enough album that I don't think you're not gonna get everything out of it on the first listen. I think you got to go back to this numerous times and spend time with it. Don't just use this as background music. Like, put it on. Listen to the lyrics. Listen, read them if you have to, but definitely pay attention. This is an album, worthy of your attention. So, anyways, that's it. 3 albums. I hope I did them justice, and I hope I explained myself well and didn't just ramble on unnecessarily. Yeah, we'll get to the comic now. This is going to be the last thing that I do on videos from now. I think it'll be a cool way to close it out. And, you know, any comic fans can wait until the end, you know, for those of you that give a shit. So this is a comic I picked up within the last couple of years. Came out in 2016. Wasn't on my radar. Came out on the DC label. And it is in the DC universe, but this is a little bit more edgy and, you know, gritty than most DC stuff is, which I appreciate. I'd never heard of it at all. But what caught me was the Steve Dillon artwork on the front. Steve Dillon, you know, artists for, you know, he did stuff for The Boys and for Preacher and a really cool Punisher series. And yeah, and it was written by Garth Ennis of Punisher and, well, Preacher and The Boys. Him and Steve Dillon just work together a lot. And Garth Ennis is a great writer. So this is, I don't even know what this is called. Section 8 six-pack dog welder, I guess. Does anyone know if that's what it's called? So this is a superhero group called Section 8, which is funny because they're all like very much misfit superheroes. They're all, you know, they're all losers basically, and they're all just shitty people. And so yeah. I think Steve Dillon, yeah, he just did the cover. He didn't do the artwork on the inside, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Russ Braun did the artwork on the inside. But his artwork is great as well. Definitely works. So yeah, this is pretty cool. This is the first issue. First of 6, and I have, it looks like I got the first 3, so I'm gonna have to track down the other 3. As to talk about what's going on here, I don't really know yet. Obviously, it's the beginning of a story that's gonna unfold. But yeah, the superheroes in this group are just fucking weird. There's one dude who's like from, he'll mutter, you know, that weird language that monsters speak in, like H.P. Lovecraft stories. It looks like there's a Catwoman knockoff. There's a dude called Dog Welder as you can see him on the cover. He's holding a dead puppy. He welds dead dogs to people. That doesn't even make sense. But I don't know. It seems like it could be something cool. I guess the villain in this, or at least in this series, or this mini-series, is, what's his name? The Spectre, a well-known DC villain. I never read a lot of DC, to be honest. Batman. I like Batman. I don't really care much for the rest, but I recognized him. So, yeah, I don't know. If any of you guys are into comics and you've read whatever the fuck this is called, yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, like I said, I put this at the end just so everyone else can, if you don't give a shit about comics, you could just end this early. This video's running on kind of long, so statistically 90% of you guys don't watch the entire video anyways, but it's cool. I don't care. Whether you watch it for a minute or 25 minutes, it's cool to me. So, anyways, that's all I got for now. Glad to finally wrap this one up. I've been, you know, listening to these albums, you know, for a while now, so I could get them more fresh in my head. I think, as I've said before, I think my next video is probably going to be the Hoofchild label showcase. I got 2 albums from Hoofchild Records that I'm still kind of, you know, wrapping my head around them, so, you know, I'm looking forward to listening to those a little bit more and then talking about them. I'm going to do more t-shirt videos. My next one's going to be picking up where the last one left off with black metal t-shirts. I have way more than I thought that I did. I showed 20 in the first video, and I think I probably have at least 20 more. I might even do a third part for the black metal shirts. So, yeah, I'm a bit of a nutcase. But, anyways, I appreciate you watching. Louis says hello. He is right back here. Louis, here. Say goodbye. But, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Cheers. We will talk soon.